All the February meeting in order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and Rick Rogers is absent tonight. Anyone want to speak now? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept council minutes of January?
So,
Motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Pay the bills.
Any additions or corrections, David? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? EPA bills are there for information. Motion to accept the fiscal officer's monthly financial report. Any questions, anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No other business? Do we have any? New business, bank services has been discussing carbon credits for Greg. In your packet is a series of back and forths text between Greg and Jacob Trees. And I'm just going to turn over to Greg to just basically tell you what gives with this and what we kind of decided.
Thanks, Tom. Back when we were working through the final negotiations for the acquisition of the additional 44 acres, Jacob Prees approached the village about doing some things to help them raise some money to help cover the costs that they incur in doing these types of deals, because they are a nonprofit organization and so forth. Their first overture was to ask us to solicit donations from some prominent citizens in the village who would want to be involved in the project and so forth, which we resisted because of the fact that our entire approach to the acquisition of this land was to do so at no cost to the village. And at no cost to the village means not only public money, but private money solicited from our residents. So they came back to us right around the time of closing with an overture to work with us to apply for carbon credits from the federal government to help raise some money to defer some of their costs. And carbon credits, if you're not familiar, involve formal agreements to leave land as it is, not remove any trees, to help improve, the carbon footprint of a current property, and the federal government will pay for that restriction. And I asked Jacob for some additional information, and he did some analysis and determined that 44 acres would result in carbon credits of roughly $170,000 one time from the government in exchange for the commitment to not alter the landscape or remove any trees or vegetation other than disease, dying, or decaying vegetation for 40 years. And that $170,000 was being proposed to us as split 75-25, 75% to the Land Conservancy, 25% to the village. Our share of that would have only been, I think it's $42,500. So by going forward under that arrangement, we would have gotten a one-time payment of $42,000, but we would have restricted the use of that land for 40 years, which would not only eclipse, our time on council, but perhaps even future generations of council members. Yes, Aaron.
And you mean restrict beyond the restrictions that came with the property, just to be.
Yeah, the restrictions are more stringent than the ones we're already under, having that land in a conservation easement. The only variance to that, and I covered this with Jacob up front, was the fact that our only desire for altering the landscape at this time, at some future point, would be extending our walking trail from the existing park through the new park. He allowed that would be, could be approved, but we would have to have the trail designed. We'd have to document every single tree and bush that would be removed in the creation of that trail. And that plan would have to be submitted along with the application of the carbon credits and approved in advance in order for us to be able to do that. And so that initial offering we rejected. And when I say we, I had conversations with Rick, I had conversations with Tom. And at that time, we decided that it wasn't even worth bringing it to council. It was just a non-starter for that type of limited revenue and an incredible amount of restrictions. So I got back to Jason, or Jacob rather, and I said, look, a 75-25 split on the revenue doesn't sound much like a partnership. 50-50 might be something we could consider. That would at least raise the income to us to about $85,000, which would be a little more palatable. And I said, if we can get to that point, it's something we could take to council and see what they think. Several weeks later, I got a response back from Jacob, and the Conservancy did agree to making the revenue split 50-50, but they would have required us to pay some upfront costs involving the application fees and so forth, which amount to 10% of the carbon credits. Based on 170,000 of carbon credits, that would have been an additional $17,000 from us up front. If you take that off the 85,000 or so that we would have made, it reduced the proceeds down to 60-some thousand. Really not that much difference from 40. And in talking with Rick and Tom, we agreed that it just wasn't worth pursuing this any further. In addition to the fact that the administrative costs we would be asked to front would have reduced our take from 85,000 to 60-some thousand. The engineering fees we estimated could be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 to design that trail and prepare everything to be approved. And that would have further eroded the revenue potential. We could not see our way clear to tie the hands of ourselves and future councils for 40 years on that piece of property for that amount of revenue.
And also, the plan you submit, if you got it approved and all of that, that's it. 20 years from now, some other council wants to improve it some other way, I couldn't do it. It's a one-time deal, period. So
Well, thanks for looking into that.
So we're just not even asking for a vote on it. It's just too far out.
No, that's fine.
I think it's good it was presented to us, and I appreciate the time you guys put into it. At first blush, obviously you have to take a look at it, but I think the 40 years, and I think Tom, your comment there about if we wanted to change it in any way down the road, let alone what would happen over the next 40 years. So.
And going along with one final footnote on the Land Conservancy, you've got a copy of some correspondence between Jacob and myself regarding two things. Number one, they're going to put a blurb about our partnership in the Westfield project in their social media feeds. I'm assuming it's going to be Facebook. They gave us the opportunity to review that in advance, which we appreciated. And they did so with the thinking that we might have a feed that we wanted to include it in, which we currently don't, but at least it was nice to have the chance to review what they wanted to put out there on the web, and I think it's tasteful. The second piece is they asked us if we would host for them at their expense and planning one of what they call region celebrations. And for each of the regions that they serve every year, they have an annual picnic type of event where they will invite several of their project donors and other partners to a project site to celebrate the achievement of bringing a piece of land into the conservancy. So for the region that we occupy, which I'm not sure what it is, if it's by county or what, but they want to use our park as a place to have a region celebration. It involves informal meal, a short hike through the property, some public comments and so forth. And they want to do this in August, and we told them that we would welcome the opportunity to work with them on having that event. Initially, I was thinking that it might be an opportunity for us to combine that event with the public dedication of the park. But in considering it further, what I'm realizing, and we'll need to verify with Jacob, is they cater the event and they put together a meal, and they invite their donors and strategic partners. I don't know that format is such that it would work with an event that is thrown open to the general public. I would much rather have our own dedication event at some future point when the weather warms up, where we can invite the entire village and everybody can come out and see the property and enjoy an afternoon with some refreshments or something like that, as opposed to trying to combine the two. That's just my thought. But so anyway, more to follow on that. I explained to Jacob we'd like to be involved in the planning, and so we'll just wait to hear more from him.
We'll put that on the park committee, Val and I'll
That'd be great.
look at that and try to, and in fact,
That would be
maybe
awesome.
I'll get a hold of Jason, no, Jacob, on more on that, on the 24th, if that's all right. We'll take over that.
Yeah, I'll broker that introduction for you,
Thank you.
and we'll go from there.
Okay, second item, for information. There's an aggregate renewal letter in there that went to the residents. That's informational. That means that they get the same unless they decide to opt out and get their own period. Simple as that. Any other new business? Okay, can I have the Jason engineers report?
The Greenwich Road Salt project is moving along good. The survey was completed, base maps were created, the topographic maps created. Working with an SNME to get to about 30%, where we can come back to the village and decide how you want to move forward with the sidewalk. We're still scheduled for March presentation / decision from you guys.
So in March, you'll have what?
We're still on schedule for council in March, the next meeting, to decide how you want to do the sidewalk and what the positives and negatives are on both sides.
Okay.
With the land, with the moving the sidewalk back, you gotta have more clearance and more earthwork, more money. So we'll have how much it'll be to choose, that kind of thing.
Not that you think you gotta bring it back, huh?
Well, yeah, you guys gotta make a decision on how you wanna do it. I don't know if you think it's best if we come and meet with just some of you, like Dave and you, and show everything, and then you can summarize it to council, or just bring the whole
Bring it
presentation.
to council.
Okay, yeah, we're still on schedule for that. We won't be applying for, just recall, we're applying for OPWC funds this summer for the design costs that you're incurring now, so I remind you. The Greenwich Road sewer line, we're still waiting to hear on the additional gap funding we applied for. But as far as the project goes, contracts have just been completed, so I think they're good to go to get them started.
Haven't heard anything yet, so.
They just got the contract, so I'm sure you'll hear something soon. But we're still waiting here on gap funding for that. That's supposed to be in March too. They let us know. We're ready. And that's all I have.
I suggested to the council person prior to this next month, take a good look at that and decide whether you could be happy with all the work and money spent to take care of that slope so you don't go over, but still walk 18 inches to 2 feet from the road
No.
versus, of course, increased costs to get it back about 3 feet from the road. I mean, just sitting here without walking it down and looking at it, I question whether it is that whole project is worth doing and not get us a little further away from the road. But maybe that's not possible. Maybe that's not a big issue. Everybody ought to take a look at that and have something in your mind to be thinking about how you feel about that all happening. 'Cause they're gonna bring us money. Cost in that.
I think our whole approach, correct me if I'm wrong, going back to our first conversations about this, was undertaking this project with precisely that.
That's the objective, to get, increase the safety, that's right.
On both sides.
Right.
On the roadside and falling over the
Right.
cliffside, yes, so. Could be a half a fix.
Well, I mean, the reason, start the project was you can see the holes starting to fall in. And then when you walk the site, there's a big gap under the sidewalk, like it was all falling. And it's just gonna keep moving its way eventually to the road. So the primary purpose of it is to restabilize it, so that's not a problem. Secondary would be pulling the sidewalk back.
I think that's something we'll have to.
Yeah, that's-
we'll have to-
that's how we're doing it. We wanna definitely look at it.
And appreciate you bringing it there.
Even a third option is a guardrail protection on the sidewalk and not having.
I think we lose a huge opportunity to do this project without that enhancement.
Yeah, well, no, then that's our goal is to, how much would it really be to financially to move the sidewalk back, because you gotta have ODOT clearance requirements of a certain amount of feet behind the sidewalk before it drops off. And then dropping off at that slope, how far do we have to, how much work does that entail, how much more? That's our goal, but that's what we mean by 30%, we'll get to that point. We'll have enough material to make an educated decision on it.
That includes information about potential, like some underground utilities to that.
Yeah, we'll have everything figured out on what, we should know in pretty detail what's gonna be involved,
Okay, any other questions for Jason? Police department,
Report for January.
I believe it's at your station.
We had 3 reports, 10 calls for service, 6 officer initiated calls for a total of 16. We had 1 crash in the village that involved the circle.
And the boulder,
What's that?
and the boulder.
And the boulder, yes, correct. We had 28 officer generated citizens assists, 36 vacation watches, 5 assists to the Westfield Fire Department, 4 to the Sheriff's Office, 3 to the Seville Police Department, 1 to Lodi Police Department, for a total of 13. We had 1 traffic stop and we had 1 criminal arrest. That was the OVI on the circle. And we had 2 summons issued out of that. Medina County EMA, I have not seen anything else about the upcoming solar eclipse event, although I've been seeing some local reports out of the Cleveland area that the numbers that were initially thought to influx into the county and into the state, they're drastically reducing those numbers. So I'm expecting to hear something out of the next Chiefs meeting in early March. So I don't think it's going to be quite as raining cats and dogs is what they originally thought. So that's all I have.
Questions for the chief?
One of the things, if anybody cares for the update, because this did come up I was at a recent EMA meeting, and they weren't trusting, or they haven't heard it quantified what the number should be, but they've been told, yeah, we're kind of pumping the brakes on our original estimates of doubled population and all these things. So they said, I wonder if there's another community. So they called somewhere, it's maybe Jefferson County, Missouri, that was in a kind of an equivalent community and an equivalent location in the last eclipse that came west to east. And said, well, what was your experience like on the ground and community like that for the last eclipse? And they said, well, yeah, we had kind of a heavy rush hour. So I don't think that's the official communique, but that's kind of, they're trying to factor that all into the updated reports. And
I've heard something similar.
yeah, all that combined with the fact that it's still April, Northeast Ohio, I think people are getting a little bit more comfortable with it. So.
Chief Hall, Fire Department.
Monthly activity report for January, we had a total of 51 runs. 5 to Guilford Township, 2 to Lafayette Township, 3 to Lodi Village, 1 to the city of Medina, 1 to Seville Village, 1 to Wadsworth Township, 28 calls in the township, and 10 in the village. Incident count by shift. From 8A to 8P, we had 35 runs, and then from 8P to 8A, we had 16. January billing, we billed out $23,296.40. Nothing from cost recovery. 18 resident transport, 12 non-resident, and 1 mutually non-resident. Just some general stuff that I've been working on, the sam.gov entity update. Has been a process to say the least. We sold our old Cup Cadet UTV to a private buyer for $9,760.77. We replaced that UTV with the association purchased one due to they got a grant from the Hillier Foundation, and it was for the sole purpose of a UTV. So now we have a UTV that has is much safer for our folks for off-road incidents. It's got rollover protection as well as seat belts. And some other things, we're just working on some quotes to see what it would cost to replace the command car. And then our storm sirens were down for a very short time due to the hard drive crashing. And then just so you know, they are back online now. So that was replaced. And just some grant updates. On the last page, EMS equipment reimbursement, those are for items not covered by restock at the hospital. It's up to us to buy, so we've got some money for those things. We submitted for $44,472.18 for the Marks radio grant, and we received $9,900. $9,000 of that can be used for equipment purchases such as more radios, pagers, whatever needed, and then $900 will cover all of our user fees. And then some other small ones that we were fortunate to get, Black & Decker tools, which was that was more of a donation from Black & Decker MTD for DeWalt battery operated power tools for the apparatus. And then we were successful in getting the Moore and Tarma grant for 2023 $1,500, and then the rest are still pending, but they're in review now. So I'm hoping for a positive outcome for the rest of those grants that I have listed. Any questions for me? Questions for Chief?
It's a little heavier activity month at the village, but
The month in general, yeah, we're already, I believe, 10 calls ahead of where we were last year. So I'm hoping that's not indicative of what's going to happen the rest of the year. So, but yeah, we are up.
You mean Craig Walkup is going to be a liaison from council
Okay.
to the trustees on the fire end of things. And so you might see him there for the meetings, and if anything you want council to know, if it's not here, you can just funnel it to Craig.
Perfect.
The other thing, did you read our letter to the residents?
I did not. I don't get that. I don't know if it can be sent to me.
You should have that. Basically, what we said in there is we're not, given how our financial situation is going along, we're not going to go for a income tax increase until we have the last piece of the puzzle of what we need, and that would be what the township passes for the fire district. So we're just kind of waiting it out. And that's what basically that letter says. And Debbie, would you see that one gets off to him so he gets the whole?
Yeah,
whole
thank
thing? Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Pitzenberger.
I'm sorry.
Oh, excuse me.
All right, I did have one other thing, and this is for Dave and Chief. Just confirming that Silco was here, the sewer plant, your station for fire extinguishers?
Yes, it was.
Okay, that was my first year dealing with it, and I know since Chief Young had contacted you about access to the old fire stations, I just want to make sure that everything was taken care of, so, okay, thank you, sorry.
That's great. Okay.
Superintendent's report, wastewater, we processed 7.3 million gallons, filed a monthly and annual EPA reports, performed all the required operational testing and routine equipment maintenance. Here at Village Hall, we service the heating systems. The streets, we soldered, plowed as necessary, and continue to do equipment maintenance. We had no activity at the cemetery, no activity at the park, and I issued one zoning citation.
Questions for Dave?
Saving more money on salt this year, I guess.
A little bit.
Nelson?
We're still committed to take, what we ordered, but winter's not over yet.
Coming next week.
Mayor's report, nothing from mayor's court, no communications, no comments or concerns. Law director.
Just cemetery, I think we should talk at some point about getting another cemetery committee meeting scheduled. Because there've been some discussion last, fall related to the transfer procedures. And I've actually heard from another attorney, who's got clients that are interested in kind of finding out what the village is going to do about that. So I'm, I guess, ready at your convenience if you want to call a meeting to kind of have that continuation of our discussion. Okay. And that basically, pending, I guess, further discussion is that it's a additional option for transferring plots. So there's some, I think, semi-regular cleanup work that the cemetery committee ends up doing when these plots don't transfer during lifetimes. And so trying to create some additional options for making those things transferable between family members and their heirs, and potentially bypassing the probate transfer provision. It's basically the only one that's in there right now. So.
Okay. Any questions for the law director? Council comments and concerns, Mr. Bittner.
I will be out of town on March 5th.
Okay,
I've heard that before.
got that one. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Val,
All good here?
Julie, McNabb,
None tonight.
Phillips, Rob's not here, welcome. Next regular meeting will be Tuesday, March 5. No executive session needed. Can motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.